The transport ship's cargo bay fell silent as the holographic display materialized before the assembled candidates. Commander Vexthor, a towering Krillian with crystalline skin that refracted the dim light into rainbow patterns, gestured toward the frozen planet rotating on screen. "Welcome to Epsilon 7, Vexthor announced, his translator rendering his clicking speech into Standard Galactic. "Your final test for admission into the Interstellar Coalition's Elite Exploration Corps. Survival time, 72 hours. Surface temperature, -140 degrees Celsius. Atmospheric pressure, 0.7 standard. Each candidate receives one standard survival pack. No external assistance permitted." Jessica Martinez stood among the other candidates, the only human in a group of 12. The VRWNN delegate, a serpentine being named Srath, coiled tighter as he studied the planet. Beside him, the insectoid Zephian called Klixnara chittered nervously, her antennae drooping. "That's a death sentence for warm-blooded species," Srath hissed. Vexthor's face remained impassive. "The galaxy is unforgiving. The Corps requires survivors, not complainers." One by one, the candidates were dropped onto different sectors of Epsilon 7's frozen surface. Jessica felt the brutal cold the moment her pod's doors opened. The wind screamed across endless ice plains, carrying crystals that stung like glass shards. Her breath formed ice clouds that fell to the ground as frozen particles. The survival pack contained basics, a thermal blanket rated for -80 degrees, protein bars, water purification tablets, a plasma cutter, emergency beacon, and a small medical kit. Inadequate for -140. Jessica surveyed her surroundings. A maze of ice formations stretched in every direction, some towering 50 meters high. The perpetual twilight of Epsilon 7 cast everything in shades of blue and gray. She had maybe 20 minutes before hypothermia became irreversible, even with her suit's basic heating elements. But Jessica Martinez hadn't grown up soft. Born in Alaska, she'd spent winters learning survival from her grandfather, a former Navy SEAL. She'd studied engineering at MIT, worked 3 years on Antarctic research stations, and completed wilderness survival training in Siberia before applying to the Corps. Her mind shifted into problem-solving mode. First, shelter. The ice formations created natural windbreaks. She found a cluster forming a rough semicircle and began working. Using the plasma cutter on its lowest setting, she carved into the ice, creating a small cave. The key was making it just large enough for her body heat to make a difference. While other candidates huddled under their thermal blankets, watching their body temperatures drop degree by degree on their suit displays, Jessica worked methodically. She carved ventilation holes at angles that prevented wind from entering directly. She used ice blocks to narrow the entrance, creating an airlock effect. Then came the clever part. Jessica emptied her survival pack and examined every item. The protein bars wrappers were metallized plastic, reflective. She carefully peeled them apart and used the plasma cutter to fuse them together, creating a crude reflective panel. This she positioned inside her ice shelter to reflect her body heat back toward her. The plasma cutter itself became a heat source. She discovered that by setting it to its lowest continuous setting and pointing it at a contained ice block, it created steam without depleting the power cell too quickly. The steam warmed the small space while the melting ice provided fresh water. By hour 12, while other candidates were reporting critical hypothermia warnings, Jessica had transformed her ice cave into a functional survival capsule. She'd carved a small shelf to keep supplies off the frozen ground. She'd positioned ice blocks to create a radiant heating system, where the plasma cutter warmed one block, which slowly released heat while she moved to warm another. At hour 24, Sratha's emergency beacon activated. Hypothermia had won. Rescue teams extracted him unconscious but alive. At hour 36, 3 more candidates activated their beacons. Jessica, meanwhile, had made an improvement to her thermal capsule. She'd realized that her breath contained moisture, and in the extreme cold, this created ice buildup. So she carved a condensation channel that directed moisture away from her sleeping area, preventing ice formation on her gear. By hour 48, she'd achieved something remarkable: thermal equilibrium. Her shelter maintained a stable temperature just above freezing, practically tropical compared to the hellscape outside. That's when she decided to have some fun. Using her water purification tablets packaging, she created a small sealed container. She filled it with ice, used the plasma cutter to heat it slowly, and created hot water. From her protein bars, she extracted and dried the fruit components. The result, after careful preparation, was something resembling tea. It tasted terrible, but it was hot, and it was hers. Commander Vexthor monitored the candidates from orbit, his expression growing more intrigued with each passing hour. The human's biometric readings showed stress, certainly, but nothing approaching the critical levels of the others. Her shelter's thermal signature was remarkably stable. At hour 60, Klixnara's beacon activated. Only 3 candidates remained: Jessica, a methane-breathing Gorth named Brun who had the advantage of cold adaptation, and a crystalline lithoid named Prism who didn't feel temperature the way organic beings did. At hour 71, as the test neared its end, Vexthor made an unprecedented decision. He ordered a drone flyover of the human's position. The footage showed Jessica Martinez sitting cross-legged in her ice capsule, sipping her improvised tea, having just finished adding another reflective panel to her shelter's ceiling. She'd even carved a small window to observe Epsilon 7's strange auroras dancing across the dark sky. She looked up at the drone, smiled, and raised her cup in a casual salute. When the extraction ships arrived at hour 72, Jessica emerged from her thermal capsule clear-eyed and coherent. Brun and Prism had survived through biological advantages. Jessica had survived through ingenuity, adaptability, and what her grandfather would have called old-fashioned American stubbornness. In the debriefing, Srath, recovered and wrapped in heated blankets, asked the question everyone wanted answered. How did you do it? We're all trained. We all had the same equipment. How did a human survive frozen hell better than species adapted for cold? Jessica shrugged. Where I come from, we have a saying: it's not about the tools you have, it's about how you use them. I just applied some engineering, some survival training, and a lot of determination. Plus, she smiled, I really wanted that tea. Commander Vexthor approached her, his crystalline features somehow conveying respect. Congratulations, Specialist Martinez. Welcome to the Elite Exploration Corps. The galaxy has much to learn from humanity. Jessica grinned. Thanks, Commander. Now, can someone point me toward a real cup of coffee? That fruit tea was absolutely disgusting. The assembled aliens stared at her in bewilderment as she walked toward the warm transport ship, and somewhere in that moment, humanity's reputation for surviving the impossible was cemented just a little bit deeper into galactic consciousness.